Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hot Takes Buffalo. I'm Justin. We're here with Colin.
Up, everyone? Glad to be back for another round.
Yes, sir. And then we got Mike.
Hello, hello, hello.
Alrighty. Today we're going to be going over the Bills-Chiefs game and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Green Bay Packers game. Following that, we're going to go over what we would like the Buffalo Bills offseason to look like and how the team could revamp itself to either beat the Chiefs in the championship game and go on to the Super Bowl next year. So, who wants to start going over with the Bills-Chiefs game?
I guess I can start. Definitely was depressing to watch. We definitely got outplayed by a better team, got out coached. There's pretty much nothing good to say about the Bills' performance.
It other than the score, it was very reminiscent to that Week 6 performance. Allen didn't have a lot of pass protection. A run game was non-existent again.
It felt like our coaches didn't learn anything from Week 6.
I gotta agree with that.
We did almost the exact same things we did. We played soft zone, and obviously that got hammered by Travis Kelce. And then the one time we brought down the safeties after halftime, they immediately hit Tyreek Hill for 50-yard plus gain.
Yeah, I don't know. What shocked me the most was, we have, let me see here, quick math, like 25 million tied between our top three receivers, and other than when the Chiefs were kind of just playing prevent defense, they didn't really do anything. They were getting locked up by that Chiefs secondary.
There's something about the Chiefs with Josh Allen because they're the team who gave him the biggest issues this year. He had his two worst games against them. He had under 200 passing yards week 6, I believe. I think he had 2 touchdown passes.
Yep.
I believe that was a little inflated this week because they got down so quickly. So he had some more passing yards, but I don't think he looked comfortable in the pocket, comfortable at any point, to be honest.
Yeah, it's tough when you got Chris Jones just blowing by John Feliciano without even really making a move. The edges were constantly collapsing. That was one thing that the Chiefs did do is when they didn't get to Allen, they were really good at keeping him in the pocket. Mike, I know, the viewers don't know this, but you have been very critical of Knox. He has had a very good postseason compared to his regular season.
Yeah, I thought Knox actually did. I thought it was a very shining point in that offense. The only thing I don't still like about Knox is he almost seems afraid when he catches. Sometimes there was I'm not gonna remember exactly when in the game. There's a point when we had Knox for a perfect first down, and he almost like just froze in place before catching. He just seems very nervous at times to just take it and truck, and that's the only thing now I think I really can criticize him. I think he very much has improved at the end of the season. I don't know if he's still the elite tight end that we need, but I don't think he's a problem as much as I have in the past. I thought he was one of the people I was very impressed with in the game.
I think that just goes to his running style. His running style is very brutish. Like, I'm going to run through you whether you like it or not. I would like to see him develop almost more of like a George Kittle after catch. I'm not saying he has that ability that Kittle has, but he has the speed, he has the size to really do some damage in the open field. And Bills have always been a historic offense that doesn't use their tight ends as much. So, you got to factor in when he goes multiple games with 1-2 targets, then he comes into a game such as Kansas City, 6 catches, which might be a season high. I don't know. I'd have to fact check that. But definitely plays into, Dawson Knox's confidence level, and almost when he gets the ball, it's like he wants to prove that Allen can trust him.
I believe
Uh,
I told you. Oh,
no, you're
I
good.
believe I told you the other day. I think they're starting to figure out how to use him more properly. They're not you just having him go downfield, be like almost a fourth receiver. They're using him more underneath routes, quick passes, getting him in open field, and then just having him bury people as he's running down the field. And I think
Agreed.
that's also the reason why he's getting more touchdowns. Is he's been a reliable end zone receiver for Allen.
Agreed. Um, I don't. I hate talking about this, man. I woke up that day after almost feeling like my heart got broken. If there was a bright spot on that Bills defense, where do you guys think it would go? Who do you think had either is worthy of bringing back next year, or hey, we did our due diligence with you. Let's just move on.
I think two players. So I think the failure of this game personally is completely on our coaching staff. I think yes, some of our players were doing poor coverage and couldn't tackle, but I think it falls on Leslie Frazier, who I've been very critical of this year. But I was not impressed with a lot of defense. Two of the guys I thought did very well. Jordan Poyer, I thought had a very solid game. He's definitely not as speedy of a safety, but he was getting a lot of big hits in. He was a lot of those big tackles. He was the guy that really got there to stop him. I thought he had a very good game, and I think he's really justified the extension we gave him. And the other guy who I thought, kind of surprisingly, was Jerry Hughes, who, never has had the talent issues, but, he's starting to get a little bit older. There's a lot of different options you could play, but I thought, he had the soul sack. He had the pressure. I thought he was very good in the game, and I think the entire offseason or postseason, he's done really well of showing that even though as he gets a little bit older, he's still this domineering force that really can disrupt the line.
I agree with that. Colin, you have anyone off the top of your head?
I really liked Poyer's game, like Mike said. That hit he had on, what was it, Darrell Williams to force a field goal was insane.
You
He
talking about
popped him.
that swing pass that he just got wrecked on?
Yeah, he read that perfectly and knew it was coming, and
Yep.
I mean he stood him up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was on Damian Williams.
My guy
Rock of a hit.
is AJ Epinesa. I mean, he got to Mahomes once or twice. I mean, granted he didn't bring him down. Tough to bring Mahomes down, but I mean he was a disruptive force. Definitely showed that he is worthy of way more playing time than he got throughout the course of the season. Let's move on to the Chiefs.
Another guy.
Yeah.
I was gonna say another guy that had some bad plays, had some good plays. Matt Milano, I think, had a lot of good plays. Yes, there was some, obviously, he's guarding Travis Kelce. I'm not expecting him to make, stop him. But I'm thinking there was the one play when Mahomes kind of scrambled to the outside where they were worried about the face mask. Milano ran right in there and wrapped him up. There was the one almost sack. He got in there and spun him and helped bring him down, as Mahomes threw it away. So, as that, obviously that's going to be a big talking point later about what do we do with Matt Milano. But I thought some of his plays were very valuable, even when he might have had that, that big gain that happened on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about Milano coming up here. Any other closing remarks on the Bills game? I mean, there really isn't much to talk about from my perspective. So,
my biggest thing, I think, is I've said it throughout the year. I think we need to look very, very seriously about our coaching staff in the offseason. I think yesterday, or whenever Sunday, I don't even know what day it is anymore. Whatever day Sunday was, I really think that's on the coaching. Brian Dable kind of reverted at times to his old style, but he still at the end, was still trying to get us, to the end zone. But the defense just, they didn't bother to adjust. They weren't calling good zones. Coupled with how far our defense, has really fallen. If I'm the Bills, I might be asking Leslie Frazier to go. I really think this defense dropped when, if we had the defense of the past 2 years, I think we'd be in the Super Bowl right now.
Okay, I'm going to bring Colin in on this one because him and I talk a lot on the side about this. The biggest thing about that Bills defense was the loss of Star Lotulelei. We made Ed Oliver try to fill his role of eating up those double team blocks, which he's not built for that. You need a guy like Star, that big bodied frame, really good at just stuffing up the gaps. It allows the blitzes to get through. It allows a dominant, defensive tackle such as Ed Oliver to get through and get pressure. Even if you're not bringing the quarterback, you're still making him flushed outside the pocket. And I know Colin, would 100% agree with that because him and I have had countless talks about, Star Lotulelei. But I don't think it's time to move on from Leslie Frazier.
I definitely do agree with that, Boba. I think the biggest sticking point this year with their defense was changeover from our D line from last year, and I think the guys they brought in this year just didn't work. And I mean, we'll talk about it later when we talk about the Bills offseason, but I think we need to just totally minus a few people, totally revamp the D line. That should be a big focus this offseason.
I think the other thing, I didn't jump in on the offense, but mentioning just lines, I wasn't too. I know a lot of Bills fans are kind of blaming Allen in the offense. I thought they did as well as they could, considering the Chiefs' defense is very good. Not always statistically, but they play very well. I think every single one of our receivers had some kind of injury. We don't have a run game really, and you can't really blame the running backs for not hugely stepping up. That offensive line, man, that I thought, we have a really couple good pieces, but they just got shredded. I mean, Williams really just broke this game. Feliciano couldn't stop much. Morris couldn't stop much. I don't think, we need to be looking at new replacements, but something happened there. And, I hope the coaching staff just looks at that and says, was it our calling? Was it one guy? Was it a certain player on their team that, it's just going to happen? But for me, that was, I think, even more than the defense breaking down, was just the utter collapse of the offensive line.
I'm not so worried about the offensive line. I mean, you compare that to the Ravens defense, and I mean, they did a phenomenal job against that Ravens front seven, and that Ravens front seven is far and away better than the Chiefs. I just think the Chiefs had the perfect game plan. It's really what it is, and when it boils down to it, it came down to coaching. But
and you're correct about that, Justin, and that's why I want them to kind of think about it, just because you're right that we, I'd even say the Colts front seven might be better, and we handled kind of both teams well, and then this one we just broke down, and I want to know, was it just they had the game plan? Was it a guy got hurt and we didn't realize? Was it do we need to move like Feliciano to left guard or something? Do we just need to change up the line? But that's just coming away from that game. Yeah, the defense sucked, but it's Kelsey, Mahomes, and Hill. But I didn't expect our line to collapse like that, and that's what kind of shocked me. Thinking about the game afterward is just, we have a good offensive line. Let's figure out, why we really broke down.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Chiefs representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. Mahomes. I mean, what is there to say? Dude balled out, went back to looking like Mahomes after a couple of weeks where people were like, is this Chiefs team beatable? Especially against that Falcons game. They're heading into the playoffs, and you're like, this is not the Chiefs. This is not Mahomes. Like, what's going on? Dude came out, and yes, his receivers were wide open, but when we made it tough, I mean, that man was spot on. They didn't really have a running game. You take out that Mecole Hardman 50-yard run, they're just over 60 yards.
Yeah.
But what sucks is they did get 2 touchdowns off of it. I'm looking like I'm reliving that game in my head at the moment, and I don't know how you stop Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I don't think there's a way to stop Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
I think Romo mentioned it a couple times. You gotta take away one in hopes that you can contain the other. And I don't know how good of a game plan that is, but it's probably your best option at this point because there's no way you're going to take away both of them.
Okay, so then to ask you a question, if you put yourself in Leslie Frazier's shoes, you're game planning for this. You have to choose one player to take away. Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, who are you choosing and why?
I would go with Tyreek Hill probably because he has the most home run potential and can beat you in one play. Kelce is amazing, but you would have to force them to make a couple throws at least to get down the field or get a first down.
Mm-hmm. Mike, same question to you. Sorry.
Yeah, I would actually say both, and let me explain what I mean. For everything up until the red zone, take out Tyreek Hill. You know, he's the guy that gets you those explosive plays. You're gonna let up yards to Travis Kelce, but he doesn't have those 30-yard plays. He has those first down catch. But you look at the red zone, you gotta shut down Travis Kelce. That man just feasted with his touchdowns. And I think that's when, you can kind of take out Tyreek's speed in the red zone. You got to stop Kelce's, short plays for a touchdown. And I think the Bills did neither. They let Tyreek run rampant down the field, and they just didn't cover Kelce in the red zone. And I think that's the two things you got to do. Shut down Hill's speed across the field, and then when you get close, worry about Kelce's power just to shove it in.
See, now I'm going to cover this portion when we get to the Bills offseason, but if you got to disrupt them, and by them I mean Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce off the line of scrimmage. You're given that 5-yard cushion, and the Bills tried matching speed with speed. You didn't see anyone hitting Kelce off the line or jamming up Tyreek Hill. Multiple times you see Tre'Davious White, as soon as the ball's about to be snapped, just bolt backwards. And how many times do we see Tyreek Hill just take 2 steps and sit down and then gain 8 yards? That's a big talking point about this Bills defense is they are nowhere close to being physical enough. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I'm sure we'll chime in when we get to the Bills offseason, but
I also think from watching the game, you don't have anybody who can really simulate a Tyreek Hill type speed and change of direction, but some of the tackle angles, the angles our defenders were taking were brutal, and it was letting Tyreek Hill just run right by them and gain 10, 20 more yards.
I mean, on the topic of playmakers for the Chiefs too, one thing I thought we discussed before last week was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I thought it was very interesting that you go from what did he average 6 yards a carry week 6 to 1 yard a carry, and he did not look at all good. Some of that's probably injury, but we let up to Damian Williams. It was or Darrell Williams, sorry, 13 for 52 and a touchdown. That's not a bad game. I thought it was kind of interesting that we did stop the run a little bit better this game, outside that big Hardman run. But Mahomes just beat us, and I think there was a lot of concern this season as Bills can't stop the run. You look at the Ravens game, we did a little bit. You look at this game, maybe we still have some of that run defense there. We just got to work on putting it all together. We can't always let up the run to stop the pass, and we can't, let the pass go wild when we try to stop the run. But I thought it was interesting that a lot of us, were really worried about Edwards-Helaire, and he kind of got shut down.
Not kind of, he did get shut down.
Yeah. I only say kind of because he did come back hurt. Mahomes clearly didn't have as bad of an injury, but if Helaire really was, banged up from the injury more. At least it might explain it a little bit, but
Yeah.
definitely opposite what we thought was going to happen.
Moving on to this Chiefs defense, there were two players that really blew me away, and if you ask me, won the, I don't know how to describe it. I'll just put it in like simple terms. Won the game for the Chiefs, and that's Brashad Breeland and L'Jarius Sneed. Completely took away our top two guys. I mean, erased them until the game was just in the Chiefs' hands. You got the guys like Tyrann Mathieu and Chris Jones. I've lost all respect for Chris Jones, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I mean that secondary, man, it's very, very underrated. I know coming in, I thought, what was my score prediction? It was like 41-38 Bills or something like that. I thought it was going to be another,
believe so.
I thought it was going to be another Chiefs-Rams shootout. But man, that defense is very, very underrated.
The one guy, I thought their secondary did good, but I thought they also had some bad plays. One guy I was, even though I don't really like him, thought I was very impressed with was Frank Clark. Guy had half the sacks of the Chiefs, half the tackles for loss, just completely disrupted on Williams. I thought he was someone who, really was good at just getting that pressure in there to stop, any chance we had of running, stop any chance of, Allen getting plays off. I thought he was someone who, you removed Frank Clark from that game, maybe the Chiefs to win, but maybe it's, 3 points or, a much closer game. I thought he was really the big disruptor for them that game.
Colin, you have anyone you want to highlight on that defense?
I was just gonna add on to Mike's point. I mean, I remember that play specifically where Frank Clark pretty much he went around Darrell Williams, made him face the wrong way, and he literally just let him go right in on Allen.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was Allen. I could be wrong. No, I'm impressed with their safety tandem. I think is extraordinarily underrated. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu gets all the credit, but I think Juan Thornhill is pretty damn good safety in his own right.
Yeah, not even Juan Thornhill. I mean, Daniel Sorensen too. I mean, the dude makes plays when you got to make plays.
I agree. He had that play. We're in the red zone. We tried to throw a screen to Singletary, and he just blew it up.
Yep.
And Allen had to throw it right into the ground.
Yep.
Pretty much a waste of a down for us in the red zone.
Alrighty. Game changer. Sorry, Mike. Go for it.
Just one thing, I know we don't want to talk about the negatives of the game, one thing, but just because you mentioned Thornhill, one thing I saw online too is, when you had your scuffles and your dirty hits and that, one thing I was very impressed is Thornhill never was a guy you saw in there. And a lot of Chiefs fans and Bills fans were pointing that out, in the game after looking online. And I think that's very interesting. You mentioned, on the field he was playing well, but like he didn't have those plays like Okafor where you have this 15-yard gain because you hit the QB late. You didn't have like Sorensen with the helmet last week where that could have been, why you lose. And I think that's a good point to mention for Thornhill too, that Matthew didn't really have that either. Thornhill, a lot of these guys were very disciplined. And I thought that was big for them that, yes, you had the suplex, play. But other than that, the Chiefs secondary was very disciplined about you tackle your guy, you bring him down, that's it,
Mm-hmm.
And I think Thornhill was someone that just watching, like he always was in there to make a play. He didn't do anything stupid. And I think that, is something you got to value too, that, he really didn't mess up, anything, and cross any part of the game.
Yeah, so let's transfer on to that Chris Jones moment that, going to why I don't like him anymore. That punch to Feliciano. One thing that I realized, or one thing that I saw after watching it back with like all the clips on Twitter and social media, not only did he punch him, but he stuck out his leg to make sure he fell. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
I did. I noticed that.
And then what was it shortly after? Or was it the play after? Was the suplex?
I think it was a few plays after.
It was the play directly after because everyone was complaining they didn't get a penalty,
Mm-hmm.
and then that happened. And they got a penalty for unnecessary roughness.
So I'm talking like the Bills' first drive. I mean, there was Well, it was like out routes Diggs. Sorensen pushed him out, and then he's already drawing with Diggs on the first drive. Multiple Chiefs players are getting into it with the Bills, like Bills players. I'm not saying the Bills are completely innocent. I'm sure they said something that really set them off, but like just like the tone that they set on the very opening drive was just very unsportsmanlike and like disrespectful to not only the Bills but the sport in general. And then you got Chiefs fans saying, "Oh well, Josh Allen threw the ball at his helmet." It's like he didn't throw the ball at his helmet. Yeah, I mean, granted, it hit him in the helmet. He's just like a light toss. And the way that the dude reacted to it was like I don't know. You took a toy from a toddler who's like absolutely losing his mind. I'm sure you guys are on the same boat, but the way that the Chiefs handled themselves that entire game is just like it's surprising more than anything.
I talking a little bit, you guys know I think certain teams like to play like that. And I don't mind, smash mouth football. You shove a guy when they're going close to bounds, it's part of the game. Even the suplex, if it was still, not whistled, we've seen the Bills do those kind of plays. Sometimes it's, oh, cool, he really brought him down. It for me was all about, it's all late, and that's what I don't like. Chris Jones punches him, that's always dirty. But it wasn't even in the middle of the game. They're already done. The suplex, whistle's blown. Okafor's 2 hits at the end, both late. The taunting. It's like, if you're gonna smash mouth style, at least do it in the game in a way that's justifying, doing it. If you're gonna hit someone, real rough, old school football. And like that's what really bothered me about the helmet against the Browns. Like you don't do that. If it was just a brutal hit, maybe you have an unnecessary roughness penalty, but like it's a hit. But when you play dirty like that, and at the same time, I think I understand why the lineman came in for the Bills too. But we need to be a little bit disciplined. We shouldn't have been trying to go after Mahomes. I couldn't really tell if it was just they were intentionally trying to get a few late hits in. You shouldn't do that either. I get you're pissed, but like you got to control yourself too. Dawkins coming over and shoving him. I thought that was a little far. Feliciano already taught him a lesson. You don't need to keep doing it, guys, because then all these fans are saying, "Oh, the Bills are sore losers." Does that? Is it the end of the world? No, but like the narrative suddenly changed from Chiefs are hitting dirty to, "Oh, look at the Bills. They can't handle that they lost." And that's what bugged me about the game. Like, protect your quarterback, get the hit, stop fighting. Just get off the field, finish the game. Leave it in the game. Play brutal smash mouth, and then be done.
Colin, you want to try?
Probably easier said than done when you're in the heat of action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Colin played with me on floor hockey, and he'd be the first person to tell you that I do not hold back on anything I say.
No, and I totally understand. No, and I definitely understand that. I think it's just looking back. I think that's one of the things that, we're a very good disciplined team under McDermott, and that was the only time I think I've ever really noticed us kind of break down on the field. And I completely understand why. It's just, people don't care, and every comment I saw after that was just, Bills are losers. What a terrible team. To think we'd like their fan base. It's like it's just disheartening to see that when they're just trying to defend their player, and
I wouldn't take too much into that because, I mean, these people, like I said, these people don't understand what it's like to be, especially this year, and the way those players had to forfeit their lives pretty much to be able to play the season.
Yeah.
To get that far and then just put up a stinker, it's got to be unbelievably frustrating. And then with the way the Chiefs were playing that game, they're being physical. I mean, the Bills were trying to be physical. Obviously it looked maybe not as great in the long run the way the game did go, but like that's just my opinion. Just with everything they had to give up to be able to play this year, to put towards, I mean, they wanted to win and they put up a stinker. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, other than I don't really have anything else to add on this game. Actually, one thing that I'm surprised we haven't talked about yet is the moment this game changed was when Singletary dropped that swing pass that would have put us guaranteed points.
I agree
Again,
with that.
we will get into the running back situation in the offseason. But yeah.
Just on that final point, because I think we should transition to the NFC for a second, but I think we should also give props to Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, some of the other players that when there was that physicalness and the mark, the remarks and the shoving, they didn't try to encourage it. You saw Mahomes at one point start shoving his guys back onto the bench, to stop him from trying to go onto the field. Andy Reid didn't say anything disconcerting, immediately after the game. That I appreciate, in a big game like that, some of those guys understand, hey, emotions are high, you don't need to aggravate it. Let's play football. So I think while we might want to say certain players should act better, let's also applaud the players on the Chiefs and the Bills that said, hey, let's act mature and let's play this game that we all love.
I agree on that one. All right, let's transition to Bucks Packers. One word.
I'm Brady, man.
Yeah. Tom
Nothing
Brady.
more you can say about him.
Yeah, if there was one word that I could describe this game, it's sloppy. You got sloppy. What is it? You got sloppy calls by the refs. You got sloppy play from both teams. Dirty plays by both teams, and a different aspect from the Bills Chiefs. Just sloppy all around. I mean, I was coming in and expecting this game to be... I'm not saying it was, good, because it was a good game, but it didn't live up to my expectations. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but, I mean, they let them play, and then you get to the end, and, you call a DPI, and in all fairness, it should have been defensive holding. But, you call that then, but you let like 4 or 5 other or defensive holdings go. You can't end someone's season on a call that you've missed 5 other times.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think I'm split on that because part of me says that was the correct call. I don't think anyone should be arguing it wasn't because he had his entire jersey just ripping. I think the problem is the refs didn't call before that, and I understand certain ones, but I think they need to improve. That's been one of my biggest complaints this season is the refs really need to improve their work with penalties. But the other thing that, you talk about ending on the season, it reminds me a lot of, I believe it was 2018 was the Rams and the Saints and the famous no pass interference. And the same thing can be said. Yes, a play can hurt, but it's all on the Packers. You pick off Tom Brady 3 times in the second half and you put up 6 points. You don't go. Rodgers doesn't take off for that run, in the late game. You kick a field goal instead of going for the touchdown. Yes, that play hurts, but you also gotta capitalize when you can, And it's hard because you want to be able to say yes, that play screwed us. But for me, watching that game, as some people know, I'm not the biggest Packer fan, but I just was. If I was a Packer fan in that game, I'd be like, what are we doing talking about? How great our coach is and how great our offense is when they look terrible. And the Bills, had a couple bad calls too, but at least we weren't, 2 minutes left in the game with, who's considered one of the greatest quarterbacks to play. We were kicking field goals in the half, the first half in the first quarter. To kick a field goal when you're down with Aaron Rodgers in the red zone, come on. To pick him off 3 times and not be able to score, it's just, for me, it was just disappointment. And same goes for Brady. You're winning the game and you just blow it throwing stupid picks, And, you said, it was sloppy. I thought it was just sad. It was geez, this is, what 2 of the better quarterbacks in history are doing right now. Just throwing picks and not scoring. It was a great first half game. And it's just, it looked terrible at the end.
I'm assuming we all watched the game from start to finish. Yeah?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, right. Bathroom break once in there, but...
Colin, I'm going to throw out a name on the Packers here, and you just go off. Kevin King.
Evan King had easily one of the most. Well, I don't even remember what that tweet said, but it was hilarious. He had probably one of the worst defensive games in history. He had the holding penalty end. He gave up the deep bomb at the end of the half. Did he get mossed by Mike Evans on the first touchdown?
Yes, he did.
There was one more in there. I can't even remember. But I got to feel for the dude. He might be the sole reason they lost that game.
I think he's the sole reason he lost that game. Mike, I'm going to throw out a name for you, but this one's going to be on the Buccaneers side.
Okay.
Shaquille Barrett.
Oh my god, dude! I've been a big Shaq Barrett fan since he took off last year. Him and JPP, man, that's a lethal duo right there. Those guys, you look. They were talking about the stats. What was it like? Almost every sack this season and almost every interception this season for Rodgers has been against the Bucs. Man, what a good duo that those two are. Like,
five combined sacks.
I was looking at the coverage. We were talking a little bit this off podcast this week about Devontae Adams' touchdown against Jalen Ramsey and zone coverage, and there was a play where they tried to run the exact same thing, and the Bucs D knew it, and they completely shifted to watch for it. And I was watching that, I'm like, that's brilliant defense right there, because Rodgers and Adams are like, perfect. We got the same touchdown that just beat the top corner, and these guys are like, nope, we know what's coming, and they forced them to go out. And I was like, watching that defense, last year they were 30th in the league. They were horrible. I remember people just absolutely ripping on them about how good, historic offense, and then you have one of the worst defenses. I was really impressed with that defense. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if anyone can stop the Chiefs offense, but Bucs got a really good defense. I think they got a chance to, maybe not to stop them, but at least to slow them to one of the worst performances they could get.
We'll get
I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup.
We'll get there. We'll maybe we'll save the Super Bowl preview for next week.
Save it for next week.
Yeah.
Another thing.
Quarterback play. Sorry, Mike. Let's just hop to quarterback play real quick.
Yeah.
Quarterback play. I don't think any of them really. Actually, I don't think. I know none of them play particularly well. I know Brady showed, or the stat says 3 picks. 2 of them was off Mike Evans' hands. Aaron Rodgers did play better than Week 6 performance, but that's to be expected because it's Aaron Rodgers. If you're looking at, the stat sheet, this Packer game plan on offense looks eerily similar to the Bills. Very little to no run game, and it almost is like, we're going to put this on our best player, which is Aaron Rodgers.
I believe Aaron Jones getting hurt probably had a big effect on the game plan in the second half.
Those fumbles, too. Oh, boy.
I mean, he got popped, though. There was not much he could lead. The pass took him out towards the sideline. He literally turned around, and Whitehead was right there and popped him. There's not much you can do about that.
He's had a couple of big fumbles this year, and it's just, you can't blame him always, but just watching that, I was like, man, especially going into a contract, trying to get a new contract for him, even if it's not on him, teams are going to remember that. They're going to say, dude, weren't you the guy who fumbled, twice in the biggest game, of the year? And I thought that was what hurt him too, is just, they had a very good, ground and pound run game. It's just, they look terrible.
One player, very shocked, didn't have drops. Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yes.
Obviously Devontae Adams is going to do his thing, but to win games like this, you need the unexpected to happen. And MVS putting up 4 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown is what you needed to happen. But at the same time, you have Brady giving you the ball 3 times, and you're not capitalizing. You're looking. Yes, Aaron Jones fumbled twice. Rodgers threw 1 pick, but the Bucs didn't do much with those turnovers either. This game was a 5-score game, probably should have gone the Packers' way if Rodgers just decided to run it. I don't know what he saw on the field. It's a lot different from the television view.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I mean, you gotta expect a little more from Devontae Adams. They don't really have a true number one corner over there. Defense should have put a little more pressure on, I guess. I mean, they got one sack, but you look at that Packers D line this year compared to last year, it's night and day.
Let's also give some credit to the Bucks offensive line. You've got Marpet, Wirfs, Jensen. You've got a lot of good guys right there, and I think that was a huge thing. Is Brady kind of cost them, on the picks, but like there wasn't pressure for him. When the runs needed to run, they got the line to push. I think that was a big thing for them, as their line just shut down the Packers' chances of getting pressure. I think that was surprising, given what you look at the stats of the game.
I'd also like to hop in here with talk about how I think Leonard Fournette has had a pretty great playoff run
Lenny.
here for the Bucs. Playoff Lenny, big cat.
Yeah.
I'm sure he won't ever hear this, but I'll shout him out.
I'm gonna piggyback off that. Leonard Fournette, regular season. Let's see. Would you say third year CJ Spiller, to put it in Bills terms? And then playoff Leonard Fournette is, what was it? Was it rookie or second year CJ Spiller, where he just could not be stopped? Returning kickoffs, punts, 1,100 yards. It was night and day. I mean, this dude looks like he kicked it up into a gear that I don't think we've seen him kick it up in his career before.
Definitely earned himself a nice payday after this year. I don't know if it's going to be with the Bucs, because with everyone else they have.
Personally, I don't think it's going to be with the Bucs, but that's for another episode.
Yeah, I think it's talking about Fournette. I think the Bucs have had a very interesting story this year. You got guys like Fournette, who's cut by the Jags, and gets replaced by an undrafted rookie who goes off to great, and now he helps get them to the Super Bowl. He had obviously Brady come in, prove that he's, probably the best ever do it. He had Gronk come back and, really took off. Antonio Brown had a great return. Bruce Arians wasn't considered a great coach. Only one playoff win before this year. Has a chance to win a ring. I think that's very interesting looking at it, that a lot of these guys on the Bucs, I feel like, had a chip on their shoulder almost. JPP is another one. After his fingers got blown off, people kind of wrote him off. Shaq Barrett, never really was a big name until he got to the Bucs. And I kind of love that kind of story in football, where a lot of these guys really just put everything into it. And it's nice to see a team like that, really just kind of just get melded together and just push as hard as they can to get a run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brady, definitely the best to ever do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I do really could have picked a team and brought them to a playoff berth. Just so happens, he's on the Bucs going to the Super Bowl.
To quote the legend of Tim the Tap Man, Tom Brady really just said, picked one team and said, y'all want to go to the Super Bowl?
I remember seeing that tweet. I got a big what if for you guys. What if Gronk and Antonio Brown do not come back and play for the Bucs? Are they in the Super Bowl?
I don't think Gronk has had that big of an impact to them.
Fair.
I mean,
on the field, I don't think he has.
I think Brate has even become more of a favorite for Brady.
Uh-huh.
Every time I'm watching them, I swear Cameron Brate makes a play or two and he gets a touchdown. I mean, AB, say it's hit or miss. I think they could still be in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I'm split. I think they probably have enough talent, but I think Gronk, he had a very good year. It was very slow in the beginning, but definitely was not his worst. I think what really helped is it made Brady a lot more comfortable. And if you saw Brady and Gronk really get into it down the stretch, and that's when Brady really picked up his numbers to gain steam. I don't think they would have done that really without Gronk, and I think AB just really helped, keep that team together. That when guys were hurt, or you needed someone, I think he was there. Would they still be in the Super Bowl? If the matchups happened how they did, I think they still might, but I think it's a much bigger question mark if they don't come back. I think they really had a lot of success bringing them to the bowl.
For me, this almost transformation of this Buccaneers defense starts with Devin White. You want to talk about a breakout year per se? I don't know if this is because of the Brady effect. Brady's on your team. Hey, you're instantly gonna get national attention if Brady's playing for your football team. So, biggest takeaway from this game. I don't know. I don't really think there's one thing that stuck out. I guess it would just be the missed calls.
Tom Brady has the same amount of NFC championships as Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
He has been there 1 year.
Agreed.
I think personally, my biggest take would be this game was a great example for the Bucs of bend not break. They realistically should have lost that game once Brady started throwing picks, and their defense stepped up big. Their offense still tried to drive. I think that's what I would say is just, you look at them going against the Chiefs, bend not break. I think they got a very good matchup coming for this Super Bowl.
I agree. Alrighty, that is both championship games covered. Buccaneers, Chiefs face off Super Bowl 2 weeks. Should be a very good game. We will cover that next week episode. Now we're gonna move on to our almost wish list, I guess you could say, of the Bills offseason and what we would like to say. I guess I'll start off. I'll throw out, a couple names that I would like to see the Bills pursue. Starting at the offense's biggest hole, running back, clear as day. I mean, we need a running game. It's only a matter of time until Josh Allen just takes a lick, from just carrying this offense. A couple names. Coming back from injury, it's a big injury, but you could probably get him cheap. Marlon Mack. Let's see. If you want to go cheap and speed, have that lightning and thunder combo with Zach Moss, Matt Breida. I'm sure he would be extremely cheap. And Colin threw this one up to me. This one, I'm not completely for, but I guess I wouldn't be upset if we did. But Kenyon Drake, I don't know how much
I would like that.
I don't know how much he'll want. But those are just a couple positions for me at running back. You guys can feel free to chime in with a couple names of your own.
I saw a list of free agent running backs, and there was a couple names that popped out to me of not big names, but players who would probably be cheap and you'd be able to hopefully get all you can out of them. And I think Phillip Lindsay, he's got some home run threat.
Yep, I agree with that one.
Definitely would bring some speed. And even from the 49ers, Jeff Wilson Jr., the way he ran this year when all their injuries, I think he'd be a cheap addition, and I feel like we could definitely use someone like him.
He has shown great potential, but here's the thing, right? They got Mostert, but if you look at their free agent running backs, you got Jeff Wilson, you got Jerick McKinnon, and you got Tevin Coleman. They're going to have to bring one of them back. So out of those three, if I'm the 49ers, I bring back Jeff Wilson. Obviously, younger. But for Bill's sake, I hope they don't.
They need to be Wilson or McKinnon. I don't think Tevin Coleman has done anything since he's gotten there.
Agreed.
McKinnon is gone. He's pretty much said it himself.
All right. Anyone have
Wouldn't
any?
mind fly on him.
Yeah. Anyone have any? Let's see. What other position do we have here? Like any?
Four
mean,
things
if
I
we're
would
talking
like
running,
the Bills to do.
I'm sorry, what was that, Colin?
I had a list of 4 things I'd like the Bills to do this offseason
Sure, shoot him.
in no particular order.
Okay.
One would be, you guys know I'm a huge Matt Milano fan, would be to re-sign Matt Milano.
I think we're all on board here with signing Milano.
I am on for the right price.
Second would be to rework. I mentioned earlier, rework the defensive line. Like I said earlier, I think the moves they made to try to add after losing Phillips and Lawson just didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need a change.
Does that limit just like adding like free agents or drafting college players, or does that include like restructuring contracts? Yeah.
I personally think they should just get rid of all the contracts they signed this offseason
Okay.
and just start new.
Do you have any players in mind?
I actually don't. I just kind of want to see something new.
Yeah,
I don't really have a preference on who they bring in, or
I'm with you on that. Colin, I talked to you about this the other day. If we were to sign a defensive lineman, I want us to be all in on Malik Collins from the Raiders. 26 years old, dude's 6'3", 312 pounds. If you look at the Bills' defensive line, what was the biggest issue? And that's size. You don't have the dude that's eating up the middle, allowing Milano or Edmonds to come in on that A or B gap on the blitz, So, all right, Colin, continue on your list here.
Number 3 on this, I don't think I've mentioned this to anybody. I would sign Chidobe Awuzie.
Oh,
Interesting.
I like that. I think it's gonna cost, though. I don't think he's gonna be cheap.
I agree, but I feel like we could make room to have one splash signing this offseason. And I feel like cornerback would be the smartest move.
Now, you also brought up to me not too long ago Xavier Rhodes.
Yes, I like that. I think if you're just going to continue to go on with every year finding someone new to be on the opposite side of Trey, I feel like he'd be a good addition. I don't think he'd be too expensive either. I think he had a pretty decent year with Indianapolis after his last few down years in Minnesota. I think he'd be a good addition to be on the outside and let Teron stay inside on the slot.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out 2 more cornerback names. One, bring him back to Buffalo, Ronald Darby. And then we saw Stephon Diggs cook him, but I still think he's a very good cornerback too, and that is Jason Verrett.
I'm not a fan of Darby. That dude was burnt toast all year. Every game I watched Washington, the dude was getting holding penalties and getting absolutely just burnt.
I'm looking at other names. Mike Hilton. I guess if you want to make a splash, I'd make a splash on Mike Hilton as well.
I think another name a little bit older, Pat Pete. If he doesn't want to stay in Arizona, he might be a little bit more expensive, but the man clearly still has it. I think he'd be a phenomenal guy to lock up. Your wide receiver 2s. I think that's almost the Miami approach of you put 2 CB1s together and you don't throw. Might cost us a little bit more, but if we're really serious about locking up,
if I'm going for a splash, I'm going for Chidobe Awuzie. I'm giving him that 3-4 year deal. Locking him up, and him and Trey as a CB1 and 2. That is very good. Colin, what was that last point you got there?
I would be to draft Najee Harris.
Not just a running back, not Najee Harris, huh?
All in on Najee Harris. And I would like to say Kevin King is a free agent this offseason. Stay away.
Yeah. Who else is a free agent? And Colin knows my bias towards this guy. It is Houston cornerback Garyon Conley.
Interesting.
Don't think he's gonna cost much.
Another name I'm seeing here, Nickel Roby Coleman.
Bring him back. That'd be interesting.
Not seeing any other. Desmond King's a free agent.
He'd be a great addition.
Maybe Cincinnati doesn't re-sign William Jackson.
I believe he is a free agent.
Yeah, I'm looking right here. Mike, you have anyone you want to add?
Yeah, so we were talking about running backs a little bit earlier. A couple names that weren't thrown out that I, just throw out for the main. Obviously, Aaron Jones. We talked a little bit about him earlier. That if you're going biggest name on the market, probably him or Kenyon Drake. I'm a big Kenyon Drake fan. I would love to see him come here.
Okay, hold on. Hang on. Let me cut you off right there. Big name. You completely forgot one. Chris Carson.
I think it's probably. I was about to say Chris Carson's the other big one. He's the other big one. Another guy we talked about earlier, Leonard Fournette. It's a possibility. Two under the radar, I think, could be interesting. Mike Davis. We saw a lot of good work. When Christian McCaffrey is out, plus he played for the Panthers, so Bills would love him. A little bit older, Todd Gurley did have kind of a career resurgence a little bit in Atlanta. I don't know if he'd be as good up here, but if we could get him cheaper, I think he's someone that we could look at. Even if it's just wait another year till we get that that big name. Other names I was looking at, if we want to go tight end, obviously we have Knox. Some of the big names on the market, you got Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Gerald Everett, Gronk, Jared Cook. I think any one of those guys could be a good help. I think we're good on line. Defense is an interesting one. I'm with Colin. I 100% agree. We need to cut, I think, almost all of our defensive line. You got Starr, you got Ed, you got Jerry, you got AJ Epinenza. I think you could get rid of anyone that isn't one of those four.
This is a pretty good time to, transfer over to the topic of who could be going from this current Bills roster. I mean, starting at the D line, you look at Mario Addison, cut him, you save about 6.1 mil.
Quentin Jefferson should be.
Quentin Jefferson is not worth the $8 million cap hit. I don't know.
I also
what they saw in that. That is a crazy contract.
I don't like Vernon Butler. I know there's been some talk that he might be worth keeping around, but I think
Not
personally I like Addison.
Mil.
Yeah, I like Addison a little bit. I think he's still good at getting pressure. I don't think he's necessary. And if you said cut Jefferson and Butler and keep Addison, I wouldn't be annoyed, just because I think he's a good one to help. You can put AJ behind him, help him learn, take over. Then then Addison's gone. Again, if he goes, doesn't bother me. I think it's a good move, but I don't think he's necessary.
Let's see. I'm looking at
here's
this.
a name. We
should. What did you say?
We should keep adding the veteran Colts. We should bring in Justin Houston.
Very interesting.
I will not be upset about that if we bring in Justin Houston. He had a pretty good year this year, I believe.
He did. He had a very good year. A couple other names looking at some stuff. You're talking old Von Miller. He's in a little bit of legal trouble right now, but
that price tag I think is going to be a little too high.
He
for
would,
the Bills.
But if it dropped because of his issues and his age and his injuries,
I mean, you could be looking at like 1 year, $14 million.
Yeah. Another older name, Melvin Ingram of the Chargers. Very good. You've got someone like Matt Judon. If Shaq Barrett doesn't stay, if you really want to get some good pressure. Clowney, if he's willing to take lower because he's kind of blown his last two deals, he could be someone interesting.
Okay.
You've got Leonard Williams out of New York. If he doesn't want to stay,
I'm pretty sure the Giants are not going to let him leave.
No, they wouldn't. But that's another one I'm thinking. If you want to go a little younger, you've got your trade target. Someone, his price is a little higher. For his contract, I think someone who might be interesting. If the Browns want to move on, Olivier Vernon, former Dolphin. He'd be something, if they're, he moved pretty cheap last year. If we can take a little bit of hit on him, he's still a good pressure. If you put him and Hughes, some good pressure together. But I think that's an interesting one.
Who doesn't fit his contract is AJ Klein. But if you cut him, you're only saving 2.4 mil. And in the grand scheme of things, I don't really think it's worth it to cut AJ Klein.
He's someone that you could talk to about a restructure as well.
Absolutely. Speaking of a restructure, Jerry Hughes.
Tough
That was
structure there.
Gonna say.
I mean,
Jerry
I'm
Hughes
pretty
is a
sure if
good
we cut him, we lose money.
Jerry Hughes?
one.
Klein.
Klein, you're saving 2.4 million.
Really, we're saving money. Who was I thinking?
It's a cap hit of 6.4 and dead cap of 4 mil.
Yep.
But player you could cut on offense, John Brown. Save just under 8 million. You know, you got a stud in Gabe Davis. Absolute stud. We didn't see anything from Isaiah Hodgins, mainly due to injury, but he had a pretty good shortened training camp. Obviously bring back Isaiah McKenzie. What was that, Colin?
Lee Smith can also be on the chopping block.
Nah, dude. Lee Smith for MVP.
You talk about Brown. I'm very much against cutting John Brown. I still think he's a very good wide receiver. He's someone I'd rather see try to restructure. If we can get him cheaper, I think he's worth keeping. And then you got him, Davis, Bees, and Diggs. That's a great wide receiver core.
Personally, I would like to see him cut 8 mil freed up, and let's say you put that towards a guy like Von Miller. I'd take Von Miller over John Brown in a heartbeat.
Sure. No, and I don't disagree. I just think, I think the first approach should be, can we cut him down? Can we cut, even half of that? If you get 4 mil out there, you could get it, that's money out there. I just wouldn't, I'd rather see us give an attempt than just straight up cut him, because I think or even trade him. I think he's a guy who still could provide value. But another one, I mean, if we're going to talk very bold cutting space,
I wouldn't really say John Brown.
If you want to save, huh?
I wouldn't really say cutting John Brown is bold.
Maybe not, but I mean, you don't see receivers of his talent always go. But another bold take, say 5 million, Mitch Morse. Obviously I know you guys like Mitch Morse, but throwing it out there, one of the higher paid contracts on the Bills, he would save 5 mil. We got rid of him. Throw it out there.
You're not gonna find
see what you think.
a much better center. In
and
free agency or the draft.
Just throwing it out there is an interesting perspective.
Obviously, we all heard Bills are gonna be focusing on that Josh Allen extension. What is a comfortable number for you for Josh Allen?
Comfortable number? I'd like it to stay in the 30s. I think anything over that, I don't want him to be anywhere near Mahomes type money.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's what rumors are saying, but I hope that's just some smoke to hopefully just some starting numbers people are hearing. And hopefully it comes down.
Okay.
I don't know, man. It's franchise quarterbacks obviously don't just grow on trees, so you got to pay them.
I mean, look how long it took us to find a franchise quarterback,
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, they're going to pay him no matter what, but I'd like it to see it stay in the maybe 35 would be a good number. I don't even know what. Almost 50? I don't even know what is
50. He? He's 50. 10 years, 500 mil. Next player for you, Colin.
He's only 24 next year.
Allen?
Mahomes. His 50 kicks in the year after, I believe.
Colin, next player for you. What is same premise here. Matt Milano.
See, the problem with him is he has some leverage because he can go to be a UFA. I mean, you would like it to be around 10 to 12, I would say, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it going higher just because he's got UFA, and there's probably going to be some teams out there who would be willing to pay him the big bucks.
Absolutely. I got one more name for you, and this one has not been talked about, but it's going to be crucial for us. Is a Tremaine Edmonds extension. What's a comfortable number for you there?
Oof. Was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I mean, what would they're obviously going to pick up his 5th-year option.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because he was a first-round pick, so that will be able to push it down another year. I would like to see him have a fully healthy season next year before
Spitting out a
throw out
number.
any numbers.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, what is it? Maybe 15 million? I don't know.
The projected extension's 13.5 right now.
5, maybe 15 is a little high.
I
mean,
I don't think 15 is high. Right now it is, but come extension time, I think 15 might hit the nail right on its head.
He is only 22 right now, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Another name you're talking, not this year, but next year, Micah Hyde will be a free agent.
8
Might
mil.
have to think about that one.
Easy.
That's what's projected, but I think that's another interesting guy to look at.
Mike, I'm going to ask you the same three. You know those three players, so if you want to just go off.
So I'm looking at 2021 cap hits for quarterbacks. Tom Brady, 27. Ryan Tannehill, 29. Russell Wilson, 32. Aaron Rodgers, 37. Drew Brees, 36. Matt Ryan, 40. I bring those guys up because those are, your top, the rest of the guys making, 30 plus aren't as good, but like you're talking about how much do you pay Allen? I'm thinking 30 to 35 million. I love Allen. I've been on the Allen train since day one, but does he deserve a higher cap hit than Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers?
Obviously, I'll get to my point once you're done.
Yeah, and I understand there's the arguments, but just in my head, I don't want to pay him this offseason. I think we got to see what he does. We've got a 5th year on him. I think we should wait till next offseason or into next year to start extending him. I think this offseason's too quick.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
I'd rather see him put up the same numbers next year and then go, okay, now we can pay this guy, 35, 37, 40, something like that. I just think if they're going to rush into a huge deal this quick, that scares me a little bit, and I'd rather give us a little bit of time with the cap going down from COVID. I think personally, I'd like to see him between 30 and 35, but I'd rather wait till next season. The other ones you mentioned, Milano. I'm really split on Matt Milano. I like Matt Milano, but I almost wouldn't even want to go over 10.
Wow.
I mean, the guy's had a lot of injury problems. He's had some problems coming back, to what he used to be. I just don't know if he's top linebacker money. I really would. I almost would rather say I'd rather pay him a little bit cheaper and let him walk. I like him. I think he's a very good player. But if you're talking that high end money, I haven't seen enough consistently. And I think this year really hurt that he was out and he didn't play as great at times because of that injury. And then you're talking Tremaine Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds, I'm willing to give a lot of money to. I think that guy's a very talented linebacker. He's made back-to-back Pro Bowls, even with his injury concerns this year. Super young, already really mature, really great defensive calling presence. That's a guy I'm willing to give maybe even 15 to, because that's your Ray Lewis, that's your Brian Urlacher, that's your Pat Willis, that's your Luke Kuechly, that's your Bobby Wagner. If he plays, how he's been playing and only goes up, you could have a Hall of Fame linebacker anchoring, your defense for 10 years. He's a guy I'd rather give the money to that, if we're going to have to let someone like Milano go to keep guys like Allen and Edmonds, bring in someone else in the secondary, beef up the line. He's someone, I really think we should give a good payday to Edmonds, get him here for a long time.
Okay.
And to my point about Hyde too, I completely agree with you. Give Hyde what he needs. That guy's great.
Alrighty. If you guys don't mind, I'm gonna give my takes on those 3-4 players.
Absolutely.
Mike, you bring up a very interesting point about you want to see Allen put up the same numbers, if not better, next year, and then pay him. But what if it is an insane step again to like a Mahomes MVP season? 50, 100 yards, 50 touchdowns, 12 picks. You're looking at 40 mil, maybe. Yep. Let's just say he takes a little bit of a hometown discount, like 36, 37 mil. He comes in, has that season. You're talking 42 plus easily. Yeah. Easily. You're right. You run that risk. But on the other side of the coin, you run the risk of paying him and then him just falling flat on his face again.
The name I'm thinking of is Carson Wentz.
That's a whole different story over there.
Oh no, but I'm just thinking that horrible scenario. You give a guy 35 mil, and then
you're
thinking, do we move on from this guy? And that's just
so. My number for Allen, I don't want to see it exceed 40 mil. If it exceeds 40 mil, I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about it, to be honest with you. You go to Matt Milano, and that dude is fully healthy. I don't think he's a top 3 pass coverage linebacker, and those do not come around very often, especially where he was drafted. I mean, you look at the linebackers in this draft, none of them compared to Milano's pass coverage capability. Not to mention his like run stuffing. He's not great. He's great at pass coverage, and he's above average at everything else. So, at 12 mil, 12.5 is what I feel pretty comfortable paying Milano. If it comes in at 13 and a half, okay, I'll accept it as long as he stays healthy. Edmonds, I'm in the same boat as you guys. 15 mil. I mean, the dude's 22 years old, already a 2-time Pro Bowler. I think he has All Pro written on him at some point. I don't think I'm
especially
being biased
once
there.
Bobby Wagner goes.
I don't think I'm being biased there. I think this dude can develop into a All Pro linebacker. There are times when he looks lost, but I think that just has to do with age. He's still got a lot of maturing to do. I mean, the dude's younger than us, and here he is, 3 years into the NFL, 2-time Pro Bowler. I think if we get him for 15 mil come extension time, I think that's going to end up being a steal in the long run. Hyde, I'm willing to go as what do we give Poyer? Does anyone know off the top?
I think
of
it was
their head?
10 mil.
10 mil.
I want to say it was around.
Then that's my limit for Hyde. 10 mil. At top 2, top 3 safety tandem in the league. I mean, those guys are insane. They are very good. It's almost like you watch them, they don't have to communicate. They just know. And you can't coach that. You can't teach that. It's just something that they just have together. And that is worth the 20 mil between both of them.
I was a little high. His cap hit for the next 2 years is just under 8.
Just under 8.
Well,
I think Hyde.
Cash.
I think Hyde is a little better, so I'm willing to give him that extra, mil to 2 mil. But
you brought an interesting point there at the end, Bova, about they don't even have to communicate. We brought in Hyde, Poyer, and White all in the same offseason. And I think all 3 have kind of developed together. And the other name that I think about is Teron Johnson. He's expiring, in a year. When we look at Hyde too, I think that's another guy that I would like to try to ink up long term. I think he's might be one of the best slot corners in the league. Big playmaker, He's another guy that thinking to the future. I think would be a great defensive anchor for us.
You're talking about Toronto.
Yeah.
Weren't you extraordinarily critical of him before this year?
Yes, he was.
No,
You
I had no issue with Toronto. I just didn't know where he was going to fit. But this season I thought he's been one of our best defensive players.
Teron Johnson,
I think he's been very good.
Health concerns, injuries have plagued him his entire career so far. A number I guess I'd throw out for him is like 5.5. I wouldn't go anything crazy.
I mean, he's on a low contract
This
right
is
now.
really his first season where he's shown like, yo, I could be a playmaker if y'all want me to. But I mean, if you guys got no more points, anything?
I'm good.
I guess just we've talked a lot about all the names. Obviously last year we did the big trade for Diggs. Is there any players, ignoring the logicals of cap or anything like that, just for a second,
JJ Watt.
That's what I'm thinking. Like who's the big name if you could trade for anybody right now that we could reasonably try to get?
JJ Watt, and JJ Watt.
Yeah, that's who I was gonna say too.
You could throw in John Brown in that trade. But alrighty, that was hot takes. Ideal offseason of the Bills. Our opinions. We're not professionals. It was probably terrible. So let's move on to the final segment of today's podcast. Mike's hot takes of the week. Mike,
all right.
what do you got for us, buddy?
Well, last week, I didn't get my receiving touchdowns for quarterbacks, so I was disappointed. My Rodgers take, probably isn't true, but I'd like to think he didn't play that great. This week I've been thinking, I'm like, what are some interesting hot takes? And I'm gonna throw a QB hot take out here for you. All right.
Hot take. Period. Nothing. Good.
Listen,
good hot take, Mike.
You got to draw this tension out. So I got a 2-pronged QB take here. Hot take number 1. With the hiring of Urban Meyer, the Jags do the unspeakable and don't take Trevor Lawrence number 1. First hot take.
Mike, I feel like you could have saved that for the draft episode.
But here's why I'm throwing it out early, because I got even better hot takes. But we're talking about the Super Bowl. We're talking about all these little moves. That's my first hot take. Second hot take. Bold.
As you think about it right now.
A non-quarterback wins Super Bowl MVP. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl next week. Little preview.
Okay.
It's my throw and take out there. I don't think a quarterback is going to win MVP.
I'm not going to ask for any names. I want to have content for next week.
Yeah. We're throwing a little piece out for people to come back.
Okay.
That's my bold take.
All right. Well, that was Mike's hot take. One of them way too early. I'm going to have to remind you guys every week that was a hot take.
Well, now I can't get away from it. Now people got to bring it back every week.
The second one, interesting. Not out of the realm of possibility. Thank y'all for tuning in. That was episode 2 of Hot Takes Buffalo. Interesting one. I wish we were talking about the Bills in the Super Bowl, not the Chiefs. But here we are. Follow up.
The Chiefs in the Super Bowl plenty more times.
Yeah. It's gonna run through the Chiefs. Follow us on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Buffalo Takes at BuffaloTakes. That is on Twitter. YouTube, I'm going to put it out there, even though that's how you guys are listening to it. It is Hot Takes Buffalo with the white buffalo. You literally cannot miss it. Yeah, I mean, I got nothing else for you guys. Colin, Mike, you want to add anything before we sign off here?
Like and subscribe.
Thanks, Colin.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. It was fun. And yeah, we'll see you next week Friday.